Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, dear viewers and listeners, Assalamu alaikum. Today's question is, what is riba and why is it prohibited in Islam? Well, when you look at the conventional view of riba as, taken by majority of the Muslim scholars, they provide a very narrow perspective to the term riba, and ironically, they try to relate it to interest. But as we all know that interest is basically an economic term. It is the cost of using factor capital, while riba is a theological term that is used in the Quran as an attribute. For example, if we just look at verse 130 of chapter 3 of the glorious Quran that defines riba, it reads, "You who believe, do not consume riba, doubled and redoubled. Be mindful of God so that you may prosper." So, the use of the words doubled and redoubled is a clear manifestation of the fact that it is used as an attributive term. For example, in day-to-day life, when we use the term abnormal profits or excessive interest, in this case, abnormal and excessive are attributive nouns. Similarly, in the glorious Quran, verse 130, which I have just referred, the term riba is used with reference to doubling and redoubling one's wealth many times over through exploitative monetary or financial practice. So, if we just focus on this specific verse of glorious Quran, we can say with confidence that the term riba is used in a holistic perspective in the glorious Quran. It is an all-pervasive term that will include every type of exploitative monetary or financial gain by whatever means it has been achieved. The next question is that why riba is prohibited in Islam? So, its logical answer is that riba results in concentration of wealth in few hands, and that is achieved through exploitative practices. So, there is a clear prohibition in the glorious Quran regarding this exploitative or unfair practice to accumulate wealth. For example, verse 188 of chapter 2 reads, "And do not consume one another's wealth by unjust means, nor offer it as bribes to the officials in order to consume part of other people's wealth illicitly, while you know." So there's a very clear message in this verse of the glorious Quran that human beings are prohibited from consuming one another's wealth by using unfair means. And it goes a step further when it says that even you are not allowed to bribe government officials or people who are in authority who can probably change laws for your benefits or for the benefits of influential segments of the society, whereby those segments grab financial resources or wealth belonging to the community at large or probably belonging to one particular person or group of people. Now, riba, basically the person who practices riba is a greedy person. He's an avaricious person. And this fact is also highlighted in the glorious Quran in verse 8 of chapter 100. It reads, "And mankind is fierce in his love of wealth." So it means Allah Almighty, who is the creator of mankind, He informs mankind that you all are created in a manner whereby you have a great inclination towards acquiring wealth. So basically it is a warning that it is a weakness that is basically embedded in your personalities, and you must try to avoid it as far as possible because this is part of test of human life. So we need to keep this fact in mind. And then finally a question may arise that, of course, if we are a greedy person and we resort to exploitative tactics whereby we want to grab people's wealth and we want to acquire resources belonging to the community, then what will be the fate of those persons or group of people who practice riba under various names or probably even in a clandestine manner. So verse 275 of chapter 2 of glorious Quran confirms that a person who practices riba shall be consigned to hellfire and shall remain in it forever. So it means any person who practices riba in whatever form will be confined to hellfire, and it will be perpetual in nature. So probably he will never be or he will never come out of this agony, and Allah Almighty has confirmed it in the glorious Quran. So it means it is one of the most heinous crimes, that is riba is one of the most heinous crimes for which there is a perpetual confinement in the hellfire. So we need to keep this fact in mind. It is really a warning for prudent mankind and prudent believers. As I explained earlier, that under the influence of taqleed or blind following, majority of Muslim scholars have given a very narrow meaning to the term riba, and they unfortunately related to interest. And technically speaking, interest is not riba, although when there is excessive interest or exorbitant interest, then it may fall within the definition of riba. But anyway, when we look at the relevant verses of glorious Quran, which I have just shared with you, that verse highlights the fact that riba is an all-pervasive term, and there could be several instances where people may be indulged in riba, but probably they don't perceive it that way. For example, first situation is abnormal profits of business or trade. Now, how do you able to earn abnormal profits in the business or trade? There could be it could only be possible if you are enjoying a monopoly situation, or you resort to hoarding, or you resort to black marketing, or you form a cartel, and so on and so on. And all these practices are unfair business practices. Even no government in the Western world or civilized world allowed to form cartels, to resort to, for example, black marketing, or even if you are running your business as a monopoly, because there are very strict definition of monopolies, and the government's regulatory bodies are there to really break those monopolies so that they may not dominate the market and exploit the consumers for their vested interest. Second instance includes exorbitant interest in a loan transaction. So if the interest rate is very high, it means this would fall within the definition of riba, because basically it will become an exploitative gain. You have offered loan even for business purpose or for personal consumption to an individual, and then the bank or the financial institution is going to charge exorbitant interest, whereby probably majority of the borrowers may not be in a position to pay off their principal amount of loan, and rather they keep on paying the interest amount because of the compounding effect and other related matters. So I'll highlight this aspect in another video, that under what situations abnormal profits or excessive or exorbitant interest become part of riba. Then another interesting instance of riba is depriving a legal heir from inheritance. We know that in certain cultures, females are deprived of their inheritance share, and the only objective is that there should be concentration of wealth or land holding in the hands of male members of the society, or even otherwise. If the legal heirs are minors, other relatives may try to manipulate the situation to grab their wealth. So of course, this would also fall within the definition of riba, because this is another form of exploitative financial practice that is meant to concentrate wealth in few hands. And then another interesting aspect of riba is skewed or inequitable laws. Some of you may be wondering that how inequitable laws or skewed laws may contribute towards the practice of riba. Well, with reference to verse 188 of chapter 2 that I referred earlier, that you should not bribe government functionaries or those who are in power to make favorable laws for yourself. And we know that in many societies, the lawmakers, the government functionaries, and those who are in authority, they would make such laws, whether they relate to tax exemptions, trade exemptions, or probably property rights and so on, that would only benefit a particular segment of the society, and that segment is usually the ruling elite or the elite segment of the society. So these laws are only favorable to one segment of the society, and the primary purpose of making these laws is to make that elite segment of the society more powerful, more rich, so that they can really, rule with impunity, and there are no checks on their powers and on their wealth. So this is a clandestine form of riba that is practiced in with impunity in many cultures, and people don't consider that they are indulged in the practice of riba. I may conclude that the term riba has much wider connotation than what is normally conceived as riba, that is mere interest. So even as I have explained earlier, that simple interest is not a riba unless it is an excessive interest. But other instances that I have highlighted: abnormal profits of a business or trade, and of course exorbitant and excessive interest, depriving legal heirs from their inheritance rights, and of course making skewed laws to benefit particular segment of the society to make them richer. The most serious consequence or implication of riba is that the societies where riba is practiced and it remains unchecked for several years or decades, such societies may experience a widening gap between rich and the poor, or between have and have nots. So ultimately, what would happen? History bears witness to the fact that such societies are not sustainable, and either there will be revolutions or civil wars or complete anarchy in such societies. So that's why Allah Almighty in the glorious Quran has prohibited mankind, and particularly the believers, that they should desist from practicing riba, because it is in their larger interest. So riba is a heinous sin, and every prudent Muslim must try to avoid it under all circumstances. Thank you for watching.